Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, well, you're wearing the headphones, so I guess you have to take charge.
Okay.
Taylor Taylor won't be with us. She took the little guys to the trampoline place, which really pissed me off because I really would like to go. Bouncing on the trampoline is really big fun.
But I'm sure they got some of them in California, Dan. We can go on an outing.
No, I'm probably banned from them.
Well, today is Sunday the 13th, and we had the full moon yesterday.
Right, we did. Fantastic, it was.
Yes, it was.
And appreciated what you were saying about it. And it's kind of the point of this podcast, actually. So, what about that I mean, there was an enormous amount of things going on in that meditation, which we could talk
Yeah.
about. But what about it did you find to be of most interest?
Well, the comment that I mentioned about that stuck with me the most was the comment that came that to listen to everyone's heart, because within their heart is this same thing that is in the Christ heart, in my heart. And despite the disturbances that we get that come out from the personality and the ego, that if you listen to the heart of someone, you'll find the same thing within them. And for me, that's like a really powerful anchoring point and a place to put my focus and attention when I do interact with someone and find either my own disturbances from my own ego, or reacting probably to their disturbances and their ego. And that finds this place where I want to back away from that person, or I want to judge that person or judge myself in that situation. And finding that place where we both connect in the heart through the Christ, I think is a really powerful and beautiful thing.
All right. What I want to say about that, because I think that's understandable as an idea or a metaphor to most people, but the factuality aspect of it is important to connect to.
Yeah.
And it takes a visualization or a vision or a determined point of view to do it. So let's take a look at that point of view for a second. It's not a metaphor to think that you're going to connect to the heart of a person. It is a location. The heart of a human being, this opening here in us, can take you into the human experience of the kingdom of love. It's a place, it's a location. In the cosmic physical universe, there is a zone, it's wide zone, where love is the dominant energy. And then there's a zone metaphorically below it. It's actually outside of it, the what you might call the skin of the universe, which is the material world where we're having this conversation. There is that zone, which is much narrower relative to the inner world, which is way bigger, which has an even bigger world within that where spirit is the dominant power. So there are these, just to describe it for a second, there are these three different environments. And when you're talking about Christ consciousness, or you're talking about love, or you're talking about Easter, which is where you're talking about the resurrection, what is it the resurrection of? It's the resurrection of the material aspect or zone or form or body of life that we build in that world, bringing that up into the experience of the kingdom of love, the place where love is. Now, that's a big job because you can't just drop it in there like a rock in a well. It has to transform, transmute, and change in order to interact with the livingness of love in that area of the environment where love dominates the very atoms of everything. So we're going through that progress where we are taking this consciousness we have as humans and we're attempting to not just bring it up in vibration, but to bring that kingdom of vibration that qualifies itself with love, to bring that down into integrate with and fuse the two together. And what you're talking about, or what I interpreted you to be talking about, it's a whole nother thing. What you're talking about is when we're in this physical location with each other, if we want that inner love invested environment, which has a tremendous power in it, and it has the potential of wholeness, it has the potential of including all three of life's aspects. Life has an aspect of will, it has an aspect of intelligence, and it has an aspect of love. And when you fuse all three of those into a single location and let love not dominate, but let love cohabit fully with that environment, then you have the presence of the wholeness of life. Life is then all the way there. That's not happening down in the material world because the atoms of matter that live here with us, that we make bodies out of, they don't have the capacity to register the love aspect of life. It's still being learned here.
Hmm.
And we, because we're located here, are struggling to learn it ourselves. Now, our inner nature, already living in that world where love dominates, is doing fine with it. But somehow our consciousness, when we took on this form, has separated itself in full awareness of that part of our nature. It's like we forgot who we were in that location when we took up a form in this location, but we didn't leave that location. There's an ancient expression in the esoteric world that says, referring to life or the universe or the Buddha aspect, though I put down a fragment of myself, yet I remain. And that's the nature of what your soul is saying to the universe. I put down a fragment of myself, not even remotely all of it. I put down a fragment of myself, and yet still I am here. And spirit, way into the center of all of that, or way up at the top, whichever way you care to see it, said the same thing when it created the soul at its level. And so that in turn said, I'm going in and becoming Seb. So it embodies that fragment of itself, and yet it stays as itself in that kingdom, which is a very interesting idea. Now, you can look at it and say, well, that can't be true, but surprisingly, it might be. So let it grow in you, let it live in you a little bit, and realize there's a lot more to you or to any human being than we think about ourselves. And when you become fully invested in that inner nature of yours, in the outer world, then the human consciousness and that inner living consciousness of love, plus will, plus intelligence, will fuse together. And what happens at that point, which is the nature of the Easter idea, is love suddenly appears in the human nature with intelligence and will, which is already there in you. And that's a very dislocating experience to the startled human ego, which forgot all about it. And suddenly you have powers of love invested in you that you can use in your material world and in your material life. And it changes everything in the game because it brings in the purpose of love, which is everything there is about love that's good. That's in its purpose. And it brings in the powers of love, which we don't even understand because they're separated from us when we're not conscious of it. And it brings in the unity that love produces by being present everywhere in everything, and the grace that is love's automatic expression. So these things, these four things join us when we enter into cohabitation with our inner kingdom and our outer kingdom, the material world and the inner spiritual world. And within the spiritual world are many levels and higher and inner and deeper relationships until we get to this world of spirit, which is fully inhabited with love. So love and spirit are kind of different aspects of themselves, of life together. Same thing, but in a different level. So out here in the physical world, the material world, we're a long ways from home. We're a long ways from Rome. We're out here in the Netherlands seeking a relationship to the deeper part that caused us to exist here. And by the way, causes everything else to exist as well. It's everything that you see as something defined is an expression of an inner soul or an inner nature that lives in that inner world where love dominates. Now, we're the creature self-conscious and aware, so we should be capable of understanding all that. Animal nature and plant nature and mineral nature don't have that development yet, so they can't recognize that there's any part of them missing. They're just living. And but yet they're living from that part, so they're not suffering in the material world the way humans are, because humans have this deep inner sense of connection to the eternal, to the immortal, to the spirit that pours through life, giving it renewed life every single Easter. And then it comes up out of the earth. Remember, it's already there. Even in the dead of winter, you're not missing anything. It's retreated into you, into the center of you, into the seed in you of the next year. So where does it come from? It comes up out of and into the space around us as spring hits, which is what you see every tree doing, pushing up and out into the space around it with leaves and fruit and all the things that come, blossoms and fruit, and then it drops the fruit and scatters itself further and wider and keeps on going for next year. So there's a process here that we are deeply engaged in unconsciously every year.
Yeah.
Now the question is making ourselves conscious of it so that we can cooperate with it in our individuality and with our free will. And when we do that, then we begin to change the material environment around us. And if you're talking to your friends and you're connecting your heart to their heart and holding that location, holding your best idea of what that kingdom is in the space with them, knowing that it exists, even though they're not aware of it and you're barely aware of it, you have the intention for it to have an impact on the room, on
Yeah.
them, on you, on the conversation, so that more completed understanding can be enjoyed by us and we can get past the opposites. We should be doing this, we should be doing that, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. All that's going on in our opposite conversation right now.
Yeah.
And politics and religion and all these things. And beyond that is the fusion and unity that happens in the world when love and the material absence of love come together and merge. And there's something in us that says, if we can do that, if we can hold steady with that and let it emerge in the conversation and let people discover its presence in them, and if they want to enhance that, grow it in them, then we can change the whole game. We can change the whole human game. Because then the material idea that grows in us of the absence of love starts to reduce, and the wholeness that is including love begins to increase. And then that starts to demonstrate as activity in human unity. We're still who we were. We're just now adding to it who extra we are within ourselves, beyond ourselves. And you can make a religion out of that and talk all about this invisible part of you that contains the soul, or contains love, or contains the Christ consciousness, or contains the Bodhisattva's perfect mind. But taking it on is a different story. That's when you start to actually have the inclusiveness and the activity that goes with it and begin to demonstrate a new type of civilized living that includes a greater part of the environment. That's
Yeah.
how I see that happening. Now, how does the rubber meet the road with that? Well, you have a habitual way of talking to people with the mind, which is the intellect, void of love. Remember, intellect carries no love in it. It's not even capable of it any more than a black and white carries the color of register of red or green or blue in it. It's just black and white. Now, putting love into that is like giving color to film.
Hmm.
Suddenly, there it all is, and you see the full range. Now, emotions have a similar difficulty. People have passionate feelings about this or that, you know, politics, religion, money. So we have passionate feelings about it, but that's not love. That's an entirely different feeling because it's not actually a feeling. It's what happens when feeling becomes perfect. When feeling becomes perfect, in other words, the spectrum of all the different feelings synthesizes into one unified expression. It reaches a vibration of inclusiveness where love can actually appear there in your emotional body. But you've actually just unified all of that emotion to a point where it can magnetically pull love down into it or up into it, whichever way you want to see it. And then suddenly that pours out from you because you're identifying with that unity. You're identifying with the reality of that in the love nature. So whether it's intellect or your emotional body or the atoms of your physical body, we have to bring it if we want it to be there. And that means you have to hold your own idea of it. Whichever way you find to hold love present to the conversation with your friends, that's what we have to do. You can see
Yeah.
that kingdom of it, and it's full. The kingdom of love is full of things. It's full of beings, angels, or other types of beings. It's full of beings. It's full of us. It's full of energies. So it's not one thing. It's a lot of things, and it takes time to distinguish, define, and relate to all those things. It's going to take a lot of time for the human race to fully relate to all the life that's living in that portion of the whole environment of the cosmic physical universe. It's a big top down universe. And all of those levels have names in different types of religions. And the Buddhists have got a pretty good handle on the names of these things because they've thought a lot about it. Thinking about it doesn't make it a living thing in us, but it certainly gives some definition to it. So when it does become a living thing, you have a lot of ways to identify all the different aspects and elements. And these are attributes of different beings in the field of love. And I find that wonderful.
Yeah.
And as this is where you have the discussion of the seven planes and the seven colors and the seven spirits of life and all of that, which has a basis in people who are more experienced at living in those kingdoms than the average human being. We're not the first people who ever discovered this stuff. Some people not only discovered it, but in the absence of anybody to go there with them, they went on their own and, and broke into that universe and said, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" And they're all living there in that kingdom of love with the substances that make up its environment and saying, well, we're trying to help you bring it on down into the material kingdom so you can start having a happier life, which some of them are doing. Not everyone. Other people are minding their own business. But this is where Easter becomes a really interesting moment.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how that looks to you. That's how it lives in me because I have a amalgamation of a lot of different points of view about all of this stuff. And I've harmonized them into something that doesn't argue with itself. I don't argue with myself about a Christian point of view, a Hindu point of view, a Buddhist point of view, a Muslim point of view. I don't. I think they're all great. They're all different points of view of one perfect thing. It's the perfect thing that you want to get a grip on, and then be amazed at all the different points of view that can be seen that are all true. They're all true, but they look different from different points of view. So that's how I embrace Aries and Easter. And right now, the world is in great transformation.
Yeah.
And the thing I would like to, every day is different. We did a full moon meditation yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic because it demonstrated the whole cycle of the Aquarian age in one moment. That was the beginning moment. For me, I look at it all in terms of the Christ consciousness. The Christ itself, or himself, or themselves, however you care to view the Christ, is the world teacher for this whole cycle of time, in cooperation with the Buddha, Sattva, the Buddha himself, Gautama Buddha, who holds a vertical alignment to the horizontal expression of the Aquarian age. This is a dual age with dual world teachers, not dueling. They're not fighting. They're cooperating, and that brings wisdom and love together into the equation so that we can have a fullness of understanding by the time we get to the end of this age. But it's all here, right at the beginning. The first crack of dawn carries everything that will be in it. Now what has to happen is it has to unfold the way it's actually going to be for us as a group. And so, but I make this point because you don't have to wait. And in some ways, I love the earliest moment of it, the Aries moment of it, because it's not confused. It's clear and it's clean, and it shows you this beautiful possibility. Now, what's going to happen immediately afterwards, the moment that energy goes bam, the moment the seed breaks and nature starts shooting up, now you're having an interaction. Now you're meeting rainfall. You're meeting sunshine. Too hot, too hot, it's too hot. So it's too much rain, it's too much rain. It's so that these are things that start to happen immediately to that idea as it starts to express outward. And so now you've got ramifications. You start a conversation with 5 people, and what your intention in the conversation is immediately now being interacted with by 5 other people. So we have now the original intention is still there, but now you have to interact with those 5 inputs to make it a balanced conversation.
Yeah.
So as we go into the rest of the year, just this one year, now we're going to come into, what are we coming into? We're going to come into May with Taurus and a lot of will and a lot of intellectualism about it. And that's going to start interacting with what was born in Aries, which is the Easter celebration and the love aspect of the Christ consciousness. And now you're going to have those two, which adds more to the picture and makes it richer, but it also adds more confusion. It adds more what's going on here. And your ability to hold to the love as a place, as a power, as a portion of your environment, while you take in all of these different interactions, will make it more palatable. It'll make it more understandable and inclusive.
Yeah.
And
I've been finding that because it seems like conversations keep coming up that I don't want to have, but yet they end up coming to me, and I don't want to run away from them. But it's like these moments come up, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to have this conversation, but I have
Well, that
to. So it's like, how do I find the love here? Where is the love? There's a meeting point within this conversation that I have to find that is going to express love somehow, and I just kind of stick to that. And the beauty that it showed me is that it works. And I don't, the I'll find the place in the conversation that opens it up for myself as well, but for the person I'm having the conversation with, of what it is I'm trying to express, and where there's love right there. And it's beautiful in the fact that I'm like, how the hell did I find a place where we met? Like, I'm amazed myself. I'm like, and it calmed down the situation, and I managed to 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 find the middle point, the point of love, where we can kind of connect at the heart level. And it has amazed me twice, but kind of three times, that I managed to find this place. And every time I did not want to have to go through it, but I had to, so I had to find that place. And that's beautiful. That to me is wonderful. And that's why I liked the Christ consciousness comment of listen to each person's heart, because it's already there. You'll find it there in their heart. And
well,
don't get, you know
because they
disturbed.
can't not have it.
Yeah.
The soul in everyone. See, there are commonalities that make this all possible.
Yes.
And the only challenge you're having is holding it yourself, not anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you recognize in yourself that foundation, and remember, the foundation of the universe is the reverse of what we think. The foundation of the universe is not material. It's not sitting on a rock or a bunch of rocks or a tower of rocks or a temple of rocks. It's the opposite. It's created from the top down, from the center outward, from the subtlest energies of spirit outward to the densest energies of matter. That's how the universe is built. It looks like it was built from the outer to the inner. If you look at Notre Dame, it's a pile of rocks, and in the middle of that is this amazing thing. It's an amazing inner chamber in there that has a ceiling and paintings and beautiful things. And but yet it was created initially from an idea of the wholeness of life, the trueness of spirituality, the greatness of God, or the wholeness of the completed idea of a universe expressing the energies of life, the energies of spirit, the energies of love, and the energies of the material form, shaping itself through thought to that love. And there you get a Notre Dame. And you go, frickin', that's a fantastic looking church. It is, because it started with how beautiful and incredible and inclusive the idea of life is. And if you look at Notre Dame in the inner world, which is where the prototype of it exists, the pattern of thought upon which the architects took their idea, then you see something astoundingly alive, astoundingly beautiful and magnificent. And it is the living thing in the kingdom of love, of which the material thing is the condensed idea. So if we think about how to shift this around, and yourself too, you are the architect of your own temple. This is the temple that I'm living in. It's not a particularly good one. At this point, it's getting a little ratty around the edges, and bricks are falling off. And pretty soon I'll be abandoning it to build a better one later, hopefully sometime soon. But that's the way it is. We build them and they age. And when they age out, the life that's in them goes to start over and build a new temple. And the temples that we built recently in the Aryan age look like Notre Dame, and they look like other things like that, but more ancient temples look different. And I think pyramids themselves, which is a different shape and structure, are probably reproductions of earlier ages of doing exactly the thing I'm talking about. We don't know for sure because we don't see how it all goes together, except that the Great Pyramid of Giza and the other pyramids on the plateau are in a perfect relationship to what? Orion's belt in the heavens. So maybe in some ancient and bygone, because remember, Orion's quite a ways away. It takes a long time for the light from Orion to reach us, considering the light years engaged and the distance involved. And it's maybe millions of years since the light that's hitting us from Orion left the place. So all of this is involved in a multidimensional universe. It's all going on simultaneously according to a plan somewhere. And it doesn't look like it because the materialists of the universe, of Earth, we're in a very material age where none of that seems real. But that's only where we are at the moment. There was a time in the past when it was all quite real, not quite well imagined, not quite fantasized. We actually didn't even have the equipment to imagine it or fantasize it. Our minds weren't developed enough, our emotions weren't fluid enough, but that doesn't mean we couldn't see it. We couldn't see its livingness and see our relationship to it and listen to it and communicate with it. That we take a misunderstanding when we look back at ourselves when we were ancient people, if you think of yourself as a reincarnated identity or individuality. But you don't have to. But whoever the Anastasi were when they were first born as a group of people thousands of years ago, and they're all gone now, so they started out a while ago, or many of the other ancient peoples, we assume they were savages or something. That's silly. That's no reason for us to impose that kind of ignorance upon them. They had a very open and clear understanding of the world in which they lived. It wasn't understood in the kind of spiritual detail that we're looking at things now, if you're a Buddhist, but there it was as a living thing. And now you're going to relate to that living thing as best you can. And those living things, being far more advanced than the humans they were looking at, knew how to communicate with them in some form that made them understand what their point of view was. So we're going to learn this about the past. I'm not sure how, but we will. We'll figure ourselves out. But I think it might help us to understand where we are now in the cycle. We have gone over, let me see if I can do this. We've gone over and down. I can't do this because we're reversing. Down to the bottom of where materialism is from this very high place. And now we're going up the other side of the V till we finally reach a place of full consciousness, but with experienced understanding instead of just, wow, that's amazing. I wonder what that is. And that'll be a remarkable event if we can do that. But right now, we're at the very bottom. We're at the place where spirit is just a vague idea, soul is even less. And the intellectuals and the psychologists and the materialists don't want to talk about soul. And if you do talk about it, like your friends in the argument, if you bring up something they don't want to hear, like the idea of soul in the kingdom of love, then they throw you out of the society. They cancel you. We've been canceling people since Cain and Abel. And so the way we cancel people is to just throw them out of our society. Fie on you, you're wrong, you got this whole idea, and we're going to bully your idea and you until you give it up. If you come in and start trying to talk, and this happened, by the way, to Carl Jung when the ground had been taken over by the existentialists and the intellectuals, and Freud about human personality and how everything's related to the sex drive and to the material source, when that had been taken over in the conversation, people who wanted to talk about the oversoul or synchronicity were just shouted out of the room or laughed out of the room. And their 10 years at universities were canceled and they were thrown off the boat. Now, the great minds were so good that they couldn't throw them out of the boat. It's kind of like trying to cancel Joe Rogan or something, you know, you just can't cancel them because they're so common sensed. So we let them coexist a while longer to see if maybe there was going to be something there. But we've been canceling from the beginning. We canceled all the other religions before Christianity when it popped up and said, oh, no, that's no good. That's an old religion. They don't know what they're doing. Instead of trying to cohabit with it and with the ideas that it brought and the beauty of those ideas and the depth of their understanding that Christianity did not hold inside of it, instead of harmonizing with it, they took over and tore down all their temples, threw away all their idols, melted down the gold and cast new ones. And that's the story of the human race from the beginning of its time. And you see how all the Muslims came along and broke all the dicks off of the statues that the Greeks had made that were so well done and defaced the Buddhist statues in the Buddhist territories and did all of that because they're replacing it with their own ideas rather than harmonizing with them and including them. And that's what materialism does. So we're doing it again today with our politics, and it's come to the end of canceling. We've come to the end because we've now kind of figured out that isn't going to get us where we need to go. Dividing things out is an intellectual process, and you end up with a lot of parts opposite each other, but you have no wholeness. So why don't we start putting things together till we get back to the wholeness that they were taken from originally?
Yeah.
And that's all in here. And love happens to be the energy that does that. It has wholeness in it. It has unity in it. It has the power to transform in it, which is really good to have. It has transmutation in it, which is the changing of matter from one state to another through the agency of heat. That's kind of what transmutation does. And that heat is provided by life. Life produces heat. Life produces electricity. So, in the fusion of things, to the radiance and burning of gases and all of the things that make heat generate. So, if we open up a little bit to the inner world of what you're talking about, holding for the presence of the group, they have a chance because it's in them. It's all in every single person. They have a chance within them to feel its magnetic attraction and yield to it, all unspoken, just completely in ourselves. We say, I'm just feeling this desire to open up to something that is in the room. It doesn't matter that Seb is holding it in the room consciously. It matters that it's there. And because it's there, they are stimulated to respond to it. And when they do respond to it, you feel relief because you're getting your point across. You're beginning to reveal the wholeness of the thing. And for you, this is what I'd like to say that's important. For you, if you can start out with that in your day, when you wake up, start out with the realization that that's where you're going. You're going to be doing that all day. I don't care who likes it, who doesn't like it, who responds to it, who doesn't respond to it. I'm going to hold that because it's real. See, it's not a tool you're using in the garden shed because you're trying to get a weed out of the ground. It's a place in reality that you want to include in your reality because it makes things work better. Love makes things work better. You don't have to worship the reality. Nobody's asking for worship. But if you hold that part of reality alive in you with the material reality, then things work better. And if you do that and you lead with that, then you bring joy as a beginning because you know the outcome, you know how it works. So all you got to do is just someone says, "Hey, Seb, I have a question." You immediately meet that question with the joy of holding that secret wholeness in you, the secret of love in your heart, and the secret of that environment from which it's coming to you as present in you. And you go, "Yeah, what's the question?" Because that's how you're going to meet it. You're going to meet it with that heart expansion. And then you're going to laugh your ass off at watching how people react to that. Freely react because you don't have any desire for an outcome. The moment you desire someone to respond to your love as if it were yours, it's not. It's just there like sunshine. It belongs to everybody.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're holding it is no virtue. It's just what you can do and are expected to do. Giving a drink of water to a thirsty person is no virtue. They're thirsty, you see it, and you've got water. You're expected to give it up.
Yeah.
And so we want to give ourselves virtue because we're bringing something that we think is the benefit of others. And then we want an outcome. We want them to take it, to like it, to improve from it, and then to thank us for it and pay us, hopefully, so we can get the hell out of here and get on a train to go somewhere. That's the material cycle that our egos go in. But you don't have to do that. Love will provide all that outcome without you wanting it to. You don't have to tell it what to do. You know that. You're observing that. Just by holding that reality present, changes are happening. They're just starting to happen. And you're not causing the changes except indirectly because you're the one holding what you now know to be real. Are you going to hold it as real if no one wants it? No, you're going to hold it anyway because it's real. And you've learned that. And so what's the point in not holding it if it's real? Then your life, you'll stumble over the next tree root you come to and fall face down in the dirt. So you're improving your own life by holding it. You're harmonizing yourself to all nature. And the fact that someone around you is responding to it is wonderful. If they do. If they can't respond to it, that's okay. That means that they have a kind of illness that needs some healing. So we wait, we hold the wholeness, we hold the healing, we hold the presence, and we go on about our business and we let them react any way they want. They might wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, "Oh, that's what he meant. Now I see what he was talking about." And you might hear from them the next day. You might hear from them 10 years later. I was having a conversation with a person I was working with named Irv, and he was having trouble. He was struggling. We were salesmen or agents for a company together with a product. And he was struggling with how to make it work. And of course, the tendency if you're selling something for someone else is to want an outcome, to go out and promote an outcome. I want you to say yes to my, this is the Tesla you want, isn't it? So we have that in us to do. But if you stop doing that and just let nature work, let the law of demand and agreement, I have this if you would like it, and this is what it looks like, and this is what I think it could do for you. But if you don't like it, that's fine too. There are other things to like. There are other things to go get. So we're having this discussion about all of this and about how it isn't about outcomes. It's about connecting yourself to the universal law that's causing everything to evolve and grow and letting love have its power in you. Then I didn't see him for 3 days. I said, "Where have you been?" when he showed back up at work. And he said, I started thinking about what she said and something went off in my brain. And I started seeing how all of this connects to the universe, how it all works. And he said, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't quit. I just kept going with it. And I didn't want to disturb it. I didn't want to come to work. I couldn't even eat hardly. So Now finally it calmed down, and but he had a completely new idea about how the universe worked, because his ego stopped wanting a personal outcome and trusted the law that's causing all outcomes to benefit him and them and everything else. And this is what happens when you include that next level of environment into your environment. I had no intention for that to happen to him. I was just having a conversation about a more inclusive idea of things. So if we can see a little of that with this energy that's come in right now with Aries, we will begin to see the plan for humanity that's been worked out in the minds of great, great beings. Because when you include the concept of Christ consciousness, you include perfect love from the top, very top, tippy top, join in humanity to help it at its very basic human level. That's and can't even really describe what that means to have that happen, but it's an astounding thing. And it offers things that are astounding. And a being or a life or an energy that could take that upon itself, given the human suffering that we experience as its own experience, adds a whole new weight to it. Because this is a human group experience of suffering without love. And in order for any agency of love to join you, it must take on your suffering with it, which it doesn't have of its own, because it knows what love's about. But yet it takes on the human identity and says, oh my God, this doesn't feel good. And it can't violate it. Sorry about that. It can't violate free will and throw it on people. Well, I don't want some people, some of my friends are persistent. I don't want to call him back. It can't take it on and impose it on us. Now, why it can't is because of the mystery and nature of free will. Love will not ever, ever, ever do that. It's too humble. It approaches you with absolute humility and says, whatever I can do, I will do for you, but not in violation of your own free will. So leading a person out of a cave of darkness at their own free will is a very difficult job, because they're scared, they're confused, they're lost, they can't see where they're going, and one wrong step could kill you. And yet they have to take every step themselves. But you're there and you can see everything, and you can say to them, that next step is fine, you can take it. And they have to trust that somehow and put the foot down and take that tentative step. And then if they raise the other foot and it's going to step into a 1,000-foot hole, you have to say, wait a minute, don't take that one. See, that's challenging to hear and listen to and trust. So we have to lead ourselves out of this. And if we do, we will enter into the light of day that love offers and have a point of view that it can see. And then all of your friends are like, wow, why didn't you tell me that sooner?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all open. That book has been opened with this Aries full moon. The whole book of the new age is open. The whole plan for it to lead humanity out of the cave of its own darkness into the fabulous light of day with love as its nature is there. The blueprint is there. Now it will unfold according to our choices, according to your choices and mine and everyone else's. And that's going to be a very exciting and interesting time. But if you can ground yourself in that decision in you to choose that wholeness, that whole plan, that beauty, that unfolding reality, then that's what you bring to every moment, joyfully, purposely, powerfully, and you let everyone else do whatever the hell they're going to do. But when we're going to talk about anything, bring me an argument if you want. This is how I'm going to address the argument. I'm going to address it with the heart and the head and let you form your own opinion and go, yeah, thanks for the time. And away we go. So that's all engaged right now in the world, and look at how well we're doing. If you see what the Chinese are up to and the Russians are up to and Trump's up to and all the other countries and the stock market and everything else, you realize, wow, there's a lot of confusion out there already.
Yeah.
And now we're introducing into it the power of love to transform it all into a whole new reality. But there's no other way to get to that whole new reality, is there, except through this stuff to it. Nobody's going to wave their hand and change it all. Christians might think the reappearance of the Christ on earth is going to change all of that. It's not. It's going to reveal it. And then you're going to change it. One choice at a time. Now, I want to end this with one thought that's really important. And it has to do with how we react to this whole inflow. This is not a passive picture. This is not somebody's painting of how the universe works. This is a dynamic inflow into the human race of an energy that is ramping itself up, and it brings with it the vision of its reality. What life looks like in these inner spiritual worlds is coming into the material world. It's pouring in right now. And how you react to it, clinging to your old world or opening to the new one, determines how you go that in that little mini moment you're in. And I had a dream of this because of the full moon it activated. I was thinking about how the impact on the human race, because the impact is on me too. And I'm an old Marine Corps veteran, so I have enough unexploded cartridges inside of me to burn down London. So when things happen to me, I have to deal with those energies in myself from the past. And I was in a dream, and I was riding along on this weird little contraption that I had to hold on to, like handlebars this big. And I had two little pedals that my feet fitted on, and that was it. But it was motorized, and I was rolling along the road. And as I'm going along, this big, giant, long white car, a big salon type car, which was silly because it looked like something probably out of the 30s or something. And it just started pulling over into my lane, like it's going to run me off the road, and which it would have done, but I tried to slow down and try to get behind it, and then it just pulled over to the curb and stopped right in front of me. And so I banged into the back of it, and my head went down onto the trunk of it, and I put a couple of dents in the trunk, and that made me angry, right, in my dream. And I'm like, what the hell, running somebody off the road and then stopping and clunk. Now, nobody has to react to spiritual energies with anger, but we do. We don't think we're going to. We think, oh, the spiritual energies of love and spirit and those things, I'm going to react to those positively. But they can create an energy impression on you that causes you to formulate a negative response out of confusion or fear. I could have just seen the guy pulling over, hit the brakes, or gone off to here and there and had no thought about it and gone on with what I was doing. But I had this altercation because I'm having a reaction to something disturbing my normal forward progress. So I chose to make an episode out of it. So I stop, I get out, and I go up to his driver's window, which is tinted, which pisses me off too. Now there's two people in the car, a woman and a man. And he says something to her. They'd stopped at their house or wherever they were going. And he says something to her about going ahead in the house because he knew I was back there. He saw me in his rearview mirror after I hit his trunk. So she gets out and walks away, which fine with me. I wasn't interested in what her actions were. And I tapped on his window and the window rolls down. And I said, hey, you caused me to bang into you, and I think I probably dented your trunk. And he had it was like the tar baby experience. You know, he didn't give me any positive response. He didn't give me any negative response. He just gave me an ignoring response, which is like, no response to me at all. That pissed me off. So I started to have an altercation with him. I reached in and I grabbed him by the face, and I was going to do a little damage to that. And then in the middle of doing that, because I'm not an altogether unrepentant veteran, in the middle of all of that, I thought to myself, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. I'm too old for this sort of shit. And so are you. Because he was a guy, probably looked like a guy and probably in his 50s or something. He wasn't small. He was a big, he reminded me of Guido, you know, the guy that works for the mafia or something. He was just a solid meat of a guy that didn't give a damn about anybody else and just kind of rolls along on his own way. And that, but basically that's who he is. So what the hell could you argue about with it? So I got back on my little mopedy thing and off I went. But I went up this trail and it went off into a direction that I didn't know. I'd lost my way. You see, that was the point of this, the rest of the journey. So I went off this road and I went up to that road and I went around to that road and that road went over here and then it went over there. And I finally came down the edge of some farmer's field who's out there plowing wheat or something, bumping along on my little machine. Went through a gate. I had to open a metal gate to get through it, closed it, and I came around and came down a hill and I was right back at where I lived. My house was right there on the right and had a little fence on it. Nothing I'd ever seen in my life, actually, but that's the way I knew that's what it was. I knew I was right back where I started out from on my little motor thing. And at that moment in the dream, I knew that when you do this, when you react to what happens to you with anger or with frustration or with negative judgment, then you miss your turn. In other words, life's already moving you along. You're doing fine. But by that reaction, you have set in motion a loop that you must follow. And that karmic loop is going to take you all the way back around to the same place you were so that you can do it without having that reaction. You can stay centered. And I realized at that moment that that's what life is preparing to do to all of this beautiful energy that's coming in for the Aquarian age. We're about to be jarred, really jarred hard by the realization that if there is that in us which gets angry and frustrated and wants a fight with things that are different than ourselves and cause things that we don't think to appear, kind of like what Trump's doing to the Democrats and what they're trying to do to him and how all that works. That's the danger. And if you can hold on to those reactions like you had to do with your friends, they start into this conversation about this is right and that's wrong, conservative and liberal and all of that, and you didn't want their outcome. You didn't want the outcome of either one of them. You want the outcome of love, and you know the only way to get to it is through it. So you brought that, and then you kind of float the conversation with them, giving opinions, trying to not impose too much certainty on the argument, and let them respond to this third thing in the triad, which is the fusion of both, to the point where they begin to realize it exists. They can't even see it. People don't even know what's coming in. They just think it's some blind thing that's pushing on them. So that's a very important understanding of how we're going to respond to the energies of love and spirit and newness. We're going to respond that way. We're going to have this problem. You don't have to carry it on forever. As quick as you can, get yourself back to center, apologize to everybody if possible, and get back on the road. And then the loop is small and the loop is short. And then you can get back on the right track because you're going to do it. You're going to have this pause because none of us are clear enough to have no reaction, to have just action. But you'll short circuit all of it if you can come at the thing the way that I talked about. If you can set yourself up to hold that kingdom as a part of your environment, your inner environment with you all the time, in addition to the material kingdom, it'll be fun. You'll make the journey fun because whatever happens, you're immediately going to laugh at it, look at it, and say, wow, that really jarred me. That really jarred me. But I'm not going to get off my path with it. I'm still on my way there. Easy to say, challenging to do. Now, does that seem plausible to you?
Yes, absolutely, it does. Doesn't mean
Well,
it's not going to be stupid things are things that get to me the most. You know, like traffic and getting cut off and stuff like that. And I find myself reacting to that far more
sure.
than I'd like. But
Just like I did to that poor guy driving his big white car.
yeah,
What the hell? He doesn't even know there's something to love. And that's my job. That's the moment at which you can say, "Man, I'm really sorry this thing happened, and I hope you're okay with all of this, and have a nice day." That's hard to do for some silly reason because we're all void of love, and we have to fill those parts in of ourselves everywhere that have been filled with something other than love. We have to dig them out like a dentist. You got to drill it out and put something else in there,
yeah,
put some love in there. And if you don't expect that to happen, if you're not prepared for that to happen to you, by you, with others, then you're misunderstanding yourself. And it's important to lock in tight to what you're doing with your friends until it becomes habit, till you're just that guy.
yeah,
And some people have that amazingly well. And
yeah,
I'm astounded at how good some people are at that. Because everybody's getting hit by flying shit. It's just a question of how you're going to react to it and respond. And perhaps the Christ is going to give a demonstration of how to respond. Jesus did it and nobody could believe it. They couldn't believe anybody could hold to that center of love through that kind of torment and torture and unrelenting hatred. And yet he did, because he knew that that was the necessary response for love to happen for the rest of us. And coincidentally, it did. It's taken 2,000 years to mature. And so here we are getting ready to go at it again with a second round of the same thing. And I think that that's an appropriate thing, and it's happening, and it's can be fantastic. And we don't need to start a new religion out of it, but we probably will, because which is not a bad thing, because it'll be quite scientific, and it'll be about how we do this scientifically and detach ourselves from judgment. Good luck with that. And I'm quite sure the Brits will be the first to do it.
Well, all I know is it's doable, Dan, and
Yes,
that's the
you do.
important bit.
You do know that. And you
Yeah,
know that from your own experience, not mine.
yeah.
I may never realize it's actually doable. I may be beating up cars that push me off the road for the rest of this lifetime. Although I am getting a little old for it. I was right about it in the dream. I thought, what the fuck? I'm too old for this shit. So yeah,
But I know you can too, Dan.
sure, I can. I could. I might.
You will.
It's hard to remember, isn't it?
Yeah.
Moment to moment, it's like, why doesn't that stick in my memory to do that? Moment to moment, why does my memory flee me from me? And I don't know. Liz, my daughter, had an experience this morning, because this is where the whole world is right now. See, when things happen like a full moon of Aries, the thing that happens right after it, that's what's happening to the whole world right now. Whether we think so or not, it is. Everybody. Anyway, she's listening to some old blues, 57 blues, Lightning Hopkins or somebody like that. Great old blues tune. And she's walking along the sidewalk near where we live here. This happened this morning. And there's some black guy pushing a shopping cart full of stuff. And he's old and it's old. And he sees her coming and he moves his shopping cart to the side of the sidewalk as a courtesy so she can get by. And as she's going by, he says, "Well, you think it's going to rain?" And she looked up, because it's a gray sky where I am today. Blue and up now, but it was gray then. And she says, "Well, it might, but maybe it'll burn off pretty soon because we're getting into the June gloom things. But then again, we could get an April shower. And he takes all of this in and looks at her and says, well, if it's going to come, let it come. And that kind of expression, and then they pass and they all go on their life. But that endurance, that deep endurance, is the spirit that's in the blues itself, which she's listening to while he's demonstrating to her that same depth of endurance. I don't know how I got here. I don't know why I have to have this life so difficult when others don't. Pushing a shopping cart and it might rain on me on top of everything else. But if it's going to, let it come. He's not giving up. He's not giving up that endurance because he knows that somewhere ahead is something better. That's the only, otherwise you would just lay down. That would be it. So we have to hold that power if we can and make a game out of it, make something wonderful out of it.
Joyful playfulness.
Yeah, I think joyful playfulness is the best attitude to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a conversation with a pretty girl for a few moments about the weather. And she didn't hold back. She's like, yeah, sure, having a conversation with this guy when other people might not. They might just ignore him and push by. But Liz doesn't do that. She stops and gives courtesy. So I guess we might do that too, but she did. All right. Anyway, Seb,
Thank you, Dan.
carry on with this energy because it's cooking inside all of us. And when we talk at the Love Foundry about empowering yourself with love, it has nothing to do with any of these religious conversations. We happen to be in the full moon of Easter, and that relates it to the elements that make Easter real as a thought in humanity. But it exists in the deepest forest without anyone knowing anything about any of that.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing. So future Easters will be different, will be thought about differently and talked about differently and revealing things differently, but it will still be the same moment of the year, the full moon of Aries, where the whole cycle of the year starts and goes back around with the 12 labors of Hercules and how all of that unfolded. It'll just be unfolding, hopefully, with more love.
Yeah, it will.
I think so.
Yeah.
Carry on. Next time we'll pull Taylor in for this conversation because she has something to contribute to it for sure.
Yeah, she does.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone. Until next time.
Yeah. All right. See